I'm Vicki Hogarth and welcome to Southwest Magazine. The Passamaquoddy Lodge Foundation is well underway in its annual fundraising campaign. Here to tell us more about it are donor Dale Dauphinee and administrator at the Passamaquoddy Lodge, Yolande. Thank you both for coming in today and sitting down on the couch.
Yes.
I appreciate it so much. Yolande, I'd love to start with you to talk a little bit about why this annual campaign is so important and what kind of things it takes care of, things that people might not consider that need to be fundraised for every year.
So this is our second year doing our fundraising, and we like to bring in things that help improve the quality of life for our residents. Last year, as you mentioned, we brought in a soft serve ice cream machine, which was something a little more fun, but we also brought in some Broda chairs, which are chairs that help residents that are contracted and get them out of bed, and so they don't end up with sores or pressure sores. This year, a lot of our campaign we put towards medical equipment, ECG machines, bladder scanners, and what these things do is they help us keep our residents at the home so the doctor can diagnose them there and we don't have to put them in an ambulance and send them to hospital, where sometimes they end up there for 3 days in the emergency department because they can't get an ambulance back home. We thought that was really an important thing to look at, is how we keep our residents at the home and not force them out to the hospital or areas where they're not comfortable, especially our dementia patients.
Yeah, and I'm sure that would also make such a huge difference when we think of winter, for instance, and we're trying to reduce your exposure to illness as much as possible. Keeping people at the lodge would be a lot safer.
Yeah, keeping them away from the viral, illnesses that are in the community. As well, when you move dementia patients from somewhere where they're comfortable, around people that they're comfortable, and you put them in an environment where they're not comfortable, it escalates their symptoms. So by the time they come back, they're quite agitated, and it takes a while to get them to settle again. So that was really the drive for this year. Of course, we still have a few fun things, like we want a pizza oven this year, which helps at the lodge with our activities and improve that part of the residents' care.
Oh, for sure. And I think, was it the meal carts, too, that keep the food warm was another big item from campaigns past?
Yeah, it was from our last campaign, where a very generous donor that actually resides at the lodge got us the meal carts, and he's been on this show, Bob Carney.
Yeah.
And they're meal carts that keep all your hot food hot and your cold food cold. And we can also plug it in so residents don't have to eat at a set time. They can eat whenever they like, and their food comes at the temperature it's supposed to.
Bob knew about this because he used to always try to microwave his wife's meal when he would come to visit her. So that's how he got introduced to this idea.
Yeah.
And so other people going there, if you notice things, there's a chance to do something about it.
That's it. I mean, who better for people like Bob, who lives at the lodge, to Yolande there every day, to know what these needs are, and something that the rest of us might not think about. He was explaining just what it means when your meal is just that much more warm than when you're maybe the last one to be served. What a difference that can make. So he definitely prepped us for this conversation today. But Dale, because Bob was a donor as well, not only does he live at the lodge, but he, because of that, has felt it's so important because he very much cares for Yolande and all the staff there and the incredible work you do. But whatever these donations can do to add to that care that's already there. What is it about the lodge that made you, not as a resident of the lodge, but still wanting to be a donor to this facility in our community?
Well, I'm a physician, and I had lots of responsibilities, so I'm familiar with the issues. But perhaps most interesting is that my wife, who was a physiotherapist and a professor at McGill, her field that she invented is how to measure quality of care. She internationally is one of the people who invented this whole idea and worked out how we actually measure what somebody's quality of care is. So one day when my wife began to have some difficulties with moving and walking and speaking, so we realized she had to go to the lodge, we became very familiar with the pressure that put on the staff and where some of the pressures were, in the same way Bob saw something that tipped him off. And so what happened was I noticed that one of the problems were that sometimes people in discussion with Yolande, that they hadn't been able to maintain their skills, and essentially there wasn't any budget for the Passamaquoddy Lodge for that.
So that would be for education.
Sharon and I can help you with this. So I started with Yolande, I guess 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And so, but what we did is we donated each year to the foundation, and I decided, because Sharon and I are getting older, and she's since passed away, that we would endow something so the lodge could go to the Fundy Community Foundation and ask for money every year in training and improvement and skill development for the staff.
Wow.
And that in turn, I happened to mention it to Bob, and guess what he did?
Well, that must be very special for you, especially given Sharon and your
Correct.
background.
Correct.
What does it mean to have that level of impact on your direct community?
Well, I think we both were educators, as were you. You know, you've been there. And we saw this as something we knew and understood, and how important it was, and to make sure that it was being done. And I just didn't think these days it was so many opportunities with new methods of teaching, how they could accomplish it. It didn't necessarily mean going to conference. Things could be brought in from the outside, but it all has to be paid for.
I think so many of us, let's think back to the pandemic, learned about online learning and all the possibilities, so I'm sure that is part of it as well. But Yolande, what has it been like having those resources that Dale and Sharon were able to provide annually?
It's been a game changer for our staff. We get a very limited budget from the government for education, and it goes quickly because education is expensive, and what Dale has provided is education that really, when you educate your staff, you set them up so they don't feel like they're going to fail, right? You give them that basis, and that just improves the quality of life for the residents as well. So we've done many programs with our staff, including the palliative care program for a number of our staff. That has really made a big difference in end-of-life care for residents. I think it also has for our staff, it makes them much more comfortable when dealing with those sensitive issues. So that money has been just incredible for what we can do, as well for our management, because our management is on the floor regularly, and the more your management knows, the better they can support your staff. And again, the residents are the ones that...
The palliative care, Sharon and I, because the guy who started that, Belmont, who was a Montreal doctor, his wife was a classmate of Sharon's. And I was there when he began that in Montreal, so it was something I was particularly familiar with and how important it was. So it fitted into the same idea, and that was something that many of the staff would come to me afterwards and said they had gotten certified, and just how happy they were. I've had people walk up to me in the street and say thank you,
Wow.
who were staff.
This is, it's incredible because I think so many of us in the community, my grandma was at the Passamaquoddy Lodge for a number of years. I plan to one day be there too. So I hope, you're inspiring me as well right now to think about the ways that I can get involved. I know people can get involved the way you did, Dale, by you went through the Fundy Community Foundation to set up this program of this annual. Tell us a little bit more about how you set it
Well,
up.
what happens is you give a sum of money, and as Sharon and I had done well in life and we had money, that if we donated it doesn't get taxed. And what we decided to do, we would give a sum of money so that Yolande and her successors could each year apply for this, and we could decide how much we give now and maybe give more in the future. But you put it to Fundy Community Foundation because it's designed to set up endowment funds. That's funds that go on forever. And the families who started are associated, and they can add to it. So, for example, this past year when Sharon went away, I put some more money into that particular fund, and then she can apply next year for more money for some other things for their education programs, be it staff or even the management staff.
Yeah.
So this is another route. Let's say somebody's watching at home right now and they're thinking of a similar opportunity to make possible for the lodge. It wouldn't necessarily have to be towards education like Dale and Sharon have done,
That's
but
correct.
you could do it towards, let's say, equipment or...
Yeah, I mean, if you donate, whichever way you do, through the Fundy Community or through the Passamaquoddy Lodge Foundation, and we have our website and that you can, and e-transfer or checks. But what you can do is you can say, I want this specifically to go towards this. So if you wanted it towards medical equipment or education or outdoor activities, or we rent a bus, twice a year so that the residents can go see the fall leaves and they can go out and see the Christmas lights. You could say that's what I specifically want, and we'll honor that. If it's something that you've said you specifically wanted to donate towards, and let's say somebody has already fulfilled that requirement for that year, we would obviously get in touch with you and say, this has been fulfilled, is there something else you'd be interested in, like some gardening equipment or whatever is your interest that can help our residents. We would honor that, and the money would go towards that for sure.
The fact that you brought up gardening equipment brings me back to thinking of one of the important donors at the Passamaquoddy Lodge, which is Mrs. Flamer.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can give in ways where we think of the proximity of Kingsbury Garden that she runs to the lodge and what she's been able to do for the residents there.
Yeah.
Can you give people at home who might not be familiar just an overview of the way Mrs. Flamer and Kingsbury Garden have enlightened the lives of residents?
Yeah, absolutely. Mrs. Flamer is an annual donor, and Kingsbury Gardens is great. They lend us their little golf cart, and our residents get to go over there every Tuesdays, and they take a tour of the garden, and it's a big hit in the summer. It's one of the biggest hits. So you can see them all lined up waiting first thing in the morning when you come into work because they're waiting to go to the gardens. As I said, she also gives us an annual donation, and I do tend to try and put that towards more gardening and outdoor activities for the residents. We bought a hydroponic garden for the residents so they hadn't garden all winter long. We've got raised boxes. We have a gardening club that volunteers their time to come in and help the residents, and that's all from that donation. That's what that stems off of.
I should point out too that what we're talking about today doesn't have anything to do with the future location of the lodge and those plans and those fundraising initiatives too. This is separate. This is just the operational.
This is
budget.
operational for now, but there is on the website an area that if that's what you were specifically interested in for donating for the new lodge, you could certainly say that this is where I'd like my money to go, and that's where it would go as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it came, Dale, to giving towards the lodge, what was it about the lodge and the work they do that made this a place that you wanted to give so generously to when there are other charities, other organizations? What is it specifically about the lodge that made you think this was?
Well, there were historical reasons just because of my wife's family were attached to it here. The other thing were that I had things that I learned elsewhere, either in Halifax or in Montreal, where I became familiar with things such as palliative care and how it operates. And for example, in those cases, how important education and training are a part of it. But you also understand things that are important from the point of view of the everyday enjoyment of the staff and the patients. And those are things you can do. And those are all things, if people have specific interests in their lives or things they know about in their everyday goings on, that you see something, it's an opportunity to go and give either to the foundation for something that's immediate or something you want to do long term. Then you can do that by going through the foundation at the Community Foundation, because it is able to take money and ensure that every year Yolande will go, the same amount of money will be coming forward.
And there must be, when I think of guests we've had here, the Alzheimer's Society, for instance, where they talk about breakthroughs. You'd need that educational component in order to keep up with what these breakthroughs are.
I'll give you an example. My wife's students, people who did her PhD with her at McGill, have actually raised over $250,000 and have developed a new instrument that assesses the progress in people with their dementia that can be used in 3 languages in North America.
Wow.
I was part of that.
And that was part of this year's education, or?
No, we're doing it. It's all being field tested around the world. We're field testing in Spanish, and we're field testing it. That will improve. Some of the staff will like that, but also in French and English. But the idea is it's an instrument that is validated. We know it predicts well things for the future, and that it currently isn't available. It's sort of a hodgepodge of things. But then you have a couple key tests that you could take that will tell you every so often you could do it and assess how the patient is doing better or more slowly, and that's important if you're going to give treatments, because you need some measure, like a blood test or an interview or something, that you can measure progress. So it all fits together.
Yolande, I have to ask too, because not everyone is able to give financially, but in big amounts anyway. But if you're able to give small amounts or even the gift of your time, what are the ways?
Gift.
Yeah. What are the ways? This is more where my helping out comes in.
Yeah.
Time is a big gift I'm able to give, and smaller amounts of money. So what are the best ways for someone who might not be able to set up an endowment could get involved?
So like small amounts of money, you can just come by the lodge if you like, or the e-transfer, like I said, or go to the website. But the gift of time is a big one. We have a Meals on Wheels program we're always looking for volunteers for. We have activities that we're always looking for volunteers for. I mean, even if you were willing to just come into the lodge and sit with a resident and spend your time. You know, if there was a resident you particularly were fond of or knew from the community that you wanted to come to read a book or play cards or watch them do a puzzle, we have all sorts of interactive games as well. So if it's somebody who has, you know, more onset dementia, there's something you feel comfortable doing. They're more sensory activities. But absolutely, we have the gardening club that comes in, so that's a big hit in the summer. The Kingsbury is a big hit, so if somebody wanted to volunteer helping residents go over there for the day, you know, to tour the gardens, anything like that is, we have barbecues every Wednesday. I could keep going on and on and on. We can always use help, you know, at the lodge for sure.
And I think too, it's that intergenerational, I get so much out of being here because we have all the generations here. I think that it wouldn't be just the lodge residents that get something out of it. Anyone who came up did. But I want to throw this out to the universe, to our St. Andrews, our Charlotte County universe now. Just this idea of thinking about that. How can we all be a part of the lodge? I know that we've talked here about the idea of coming up and maybe filming a show up there where we could have the residents as our studio audience.
That would be great.
Maybe once a month doing that. So as we film this show, it's great for us to think of the ways we can all step up and do something. And on that note, though, I do have to ask for those big donors, the ones that are able to give in the thousands towards the lodge. What's the best advice you both can give them in terms of who they should reach out to start these conversations, how it goes about getting tax receipts and whatnot, all the big things you'd have to encounter when making a sizable financial donation?
So when making a sizable donation, I mean, you can always contact me at the lodge, but Kristen Stevens is our accountant, and we do have we have a online for tax receipts that you will get printed out automatically when you give a donation like that. You can visit the website. It will give you all the instructions that you need. And of course, we have a board and foundation. There's Don Smith, who's the board chair, and there's Gary Groom, who's the head of our foundation. And those are always people that would be able to direct you in the right place, if you know them. If not, as I said, you're always welcome to call me at the lodge. I'm there most days. And our accountant, Kristen Stevens, is quite well versed on how to make donations.
And Dale, what would your advice be for those people?
My advice would be that start with somebody on the inside, such as with Kristen, but go there and make observations when you visit. Look what options are there. What are your interests? And then talk to Yolande, because she can open up, and Kristen can handle the math of it, if I can call it that. But the other thing to do is once you start that, and if you want to do it perhaps in pieces over a period of time, it's important to talk to your own accountant or whoever helps you with your taxes and think, okay, is this something where I maybe can't get it all done this year, but I could do it over 4 or 5 years and accomplish the same thing in the end. And once it's planned that way, then Yolande is able to incorporate things into her activities and what she does. So it's important to do it from 3 points of view. Yours, what your accountant or whoever helps you with your taxes, but more importantly, what the people who are going to apply it do, and the people they're going to do it for, which are the patients.
Okay, and I know we talked about this at the beginning of the show, Yolande, but let's go over, I know people could suggest ways that they'd like their donations to be used, but when we're going over the priorities that we have right now for the lodge and those that are more urgent to improve quality of life, they were, again, things that help keep people at the lodge. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, so again, like I said, we're looking for some more Broda chairs because those were a big hit from our patients that have mobility issues to keep from pressure sores. We are looking at more medical equipment to purchase to help keep residents at the home where they can be diagnosed and the doctors can, give their advice there so we don't have to ship them out to the hospital. That was sort of our big drive this year. We're looking for anything for activities, like the pizza oven, fun things, if that's what you like. And we are looking at our garden right now because it's old and it needs a little bit of a facelift. And of course, going forward, what I've been looking at recently is AI. Right, and technology, and how I can bring that into the lodge that helps the staff and frees them up for more time to spend with the residents, and how it will help the residents themselves.
Oh my goodness, for all we talk about AI, you're right. It can really be an extra help when it comes to keeping schedules aligned and making sure nothing's missed.
Yeah, so that's my pet project lately is to bring technology, because that's sort of the wave of the future, and how can we help our residents and our staff with the technology that's available and that will be available in the future.
This is when we do direct please to the camera.
Okay.
Anyone's if you're watching this show right now, please get in touch with Yolande, because I agree these things can be, with what we see AI being able to do, there are so many positives when it comes to the medical world, especially, and how it can have us keep better tabs on what's going on. As we get closer to the end of the show, Yolande, what's it like working up there every day? What does it bring to your life as a staff member to be a part of people's daily lives, to be really their extended family, especially as you see these improvements come into place at the lodge?
It's rewarding. It's these people's homes and it's their lives, and just because they're old doesn't mean they're ill. Getting old does not mean you have an illness, and it's really great to be able to put these programs in place and watch it benefit both the staff and the residents at the lodge.
I should say too, when you brought up the soft ice cream machine, when you're sitting at home and maybe you're not in your later years yet, maybe you have better teeth than I do. I can speak to it at my age. The soft ice cream machine, Bob and Dawn were talking about it last, I think right before Christmas, they were here on the couch about how the soft ice cream machine, when you think about it, some people can't eat cake anymore. They might have trouble with their teeth, and it's something that is always able to be enjoyed by residents, so that you can celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, all kinds of occasions.
We're pretty cognizant of that because we have 60 residents and each have their own special needs, and we like to take that money and do something that benefits all the residents, not just a very, there are things that we do that will benefit a specific group, but we like to try and make sure that every resident has the opportunity to enjoy whatever we bring to the lodge.
I'll give you an example of something that you can going to visit somebody, and observations you can make. In this time when we're worried about processed food, the fact that they have a garden, and the things are growing, those things aren't for the patients to pick out in the garden, it's for actually goes into their diet. So there's something, if you're interested in those kind of things, you can become a volunteer and help in the garden, where you have to give time, but not money, time and effort. And it has all even beneficial to people of all kinds of ways we may not even know yet. But particularly this time where we're so conscious of how our food is developed, there's an example where people can come and be involved in something like that.
Wow. Yeah, you're right.
And it can be done in off hours.
And you were mentioning, Yolande, what part of the garden needs help this year?
We're just looking to take out some of the older plant material, and our pond is looking a little sad lately. So we're looking to kind of freshen it up a little bit, because the residents love that water, part. They love sitting beside it, and so we're hoping to freshen that up a bit. But every year we do our vegetable gardens, and every year we do our, fruits and whatever we can grow there that the residents can benefit from. So
they're elevated beds too, so there isn't that much bending over.
And these are things too. This is another way to look at it. Remember, NBCC carpentry department teamed up to build some elevated beds. So there are ways too that businesses and organizations could give that are maybe, again, not money, but it's time. It's resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have our nursing home with that Walls program, and so we've had NBCC built a lovely shed for our equipment loan program. So there's all sorts of different venues that you can, if you can just volunteer some time, that we can fit you into for sure.
And I know now that we have TV bingo from CHCO there Tuesday night, it's a big party.
It is.
This show is my official challenge to the community, that we can all find more ways to get involved and make sure this is, especially as we have these big plans down the road for the lodge, to be a more community hub. I think that's really special, and I think we can kickstart it now, both financially and as a community, by finding more time to be with our residents, the people that built this place up to be what it is today. As we get towards the end of the show, I'll start with you, Yolande. Any final words for people at home who may have not been familiar with the lodge before the show, or the need there? But what final message would you like to leave with people?
I would just, I'd like to say that you're welcome to come visit the lodge, take a tour of the lodge, if you want to volunteer your time, just to see what we actually do and how we're part of the community. And the more people that come, the more it helps us integrate into the community. So everybody is welcome, and I always take any questions that anybody would have. You can just call me or any of my staff, and they'll be happy to talk to you about the lodge.
For all of us who have had family at the lodge, you are our family too, so thank you for all you do to care and love our loved ones.
Here, here.
And Dale, as we close out the show, I'll leave final words with you. You've been able to leave a legacy for both yourself, for Sharon, who was loved by so many in such a special way. What words would you like to leave with people at home?
I think that people, it's the contact with people. One of the most important things is to go and see somebody. If there's somebody you know, go and see them as well. And when you're there, you make other observations where you can fit in a more constructive way in terms of giving something time or an idea or whatever. In some cases, it even could be some money or something. But that's the moment. Get there and get involved.
Yeah. And it'll maybe show people, like it showed you, a very specific part of where you were, where you wanted to give.
Well, I made an observation, and I went and talked to Yolande, and she agreed with me that but let's do something about it. And over a period of 2 or 3 years, it evolved, and that's how it happens with good people who are there and who will help you, and you will help the people who live there, which is very important.
Well, thank you both for being doers. Thank you for the beautiful work and contributions you both make, not only to the Passamaquoddy Lodge, but to the community in general. Thank you for being my guests today.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
My guests today have been Dale Dauphinee and Yolande J. from the Passamaquoddy Lodge Foundation. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.